All right, let's get into it. We're looking at this from late 2025, and today we are cracking open the case file on something that has totally flipped our world upside down in just 3 years. The subject? ChatGPT. We're going to run a full forensic analysis, an autopsy, really, on how this one piece of tech pulled off a global takeover. Time to start the examination.
So this is the big question, right? It's a story that's all about crazy speed and scale. How did ChatGPT go from this viral thing everyone was talking about to an absolute must-have utility across the globe? To get it, we need to look at the evidence. And honestly, the first few pieces are just staggering.
Okay, first, let's talk users. By the end of 2025, we're seeing 800 million weekly active users. You heard that right, not monthly, weekly. That means about 1/10 of all people on Earth are checking in with this AI every single week. The scale is just, it's hard to even wrap your head around.
Now, let's follow the money. The annual revenue run rate has shot up to a massive $12 billion. So this isn't just some popular toy, it's a commercial beast that figured out how to make money faster than pretty much any tech company we've ever seen.
And that brings us to the last piece of our opening evidence, a valuation of $300 billion. I mean, in 3 years, OpenAI built a company that's worth more than corporate giants that took decades to build. So the facts are clear. Our subject is a titan. Now, let's rewind and go back to where this whole thing started.
Our investigation kicks off on November 30th, 2022. This wasn't just another product launch. No, this was what everyone's calling the Netscape moment for AI. It was the day this super complex tech busted out of the research lab and exploded into the public's imagination, completely changing the game forever.
To really understand how this happened, you can't just look at ChatGPT as one static thing. We've got to track its evolution. And our analysis shows it grew in 3 very distinct, very powerful phases. Each one just built on the last and expanded what it could do like crazy.
And here they are. These are the stages of its life. First, it just mastered dialogue, right? Became the world's go-to conversation partner. Then, it got senses. It learned to see and hear, which led to this huge multimodal leap. And finally, it started to think for itself, to act on its own, developing what we're now calling the agentive mind. Let's dig into that first phase.
So in the beginning, ChatGPT was amazing, but it was also super flawed. It was text-only, totally blind to images and sound, its knowledge was stuck in the past, and it had this really bad habit of hallucinating, just confidently making stuff up. OpenAI tried to patch these holes with a plugin system, kind of like an app store for the AI, but it was clunky, it was slow, honestly it was a strategic miss. Users just weren't into it.
But then came the real game changer, Code Interpreter. This one feature gave the AI a calculator, a data visualization tool, and the brain of an analyst, all rolled into one. And it didn't just add a new skill, it totally wiped out an entire category of startups that were focused on AI data analysis, like literally overnight. This was the first real clue of the destructive power it had.
Phase 2 kicked off in 2024 with GPT-4o. The O is for Omni, and believe me, it was a quantum leap. The lag time dropped to 232 milliseconds. That's the actual speed of human conversation. All of a sudden, talking to the AI felt totally natural, not robotic. And even more amazing, it could pick up on the emotion in your voice and respond with its own expressive, human-sounding audio. It stopped being just a tool and started feeling like a companion.
And that brings us to 2025 and Phase 3, the birth of a true agentive mind. With GPT 5.1, OpenAI rolled out this wild new idea, 2 different modes of thought. You've got instant mode, which is that fast, gut reaction system 1 thinking we're all used to, perfect for quick questions. But then there's thinking mode. This was totally new. It was slow, it was deliberate system 2 reasoning, where the AI would actually take seconds, sometimes even minutes, to really work through a complex problem.
So, does this whole thinking mode thing actually work? Well, the data speaks for itself. Check out this chart. It's showing how well it did on these super hard math competition problems. GPT-4o, it could only solve about 12% of them. But the new O1 model, the engine-running thinking mode, scored an incredible 74%. It basically went from a C- student to a certified genius.
So, fast forward to the end of 2025, and this is what the empire looks like. We're talking almost 1 billion weekly users, 12 billion in revenue, and owning over 62% of the paid consumer AI market. And get this, almost 80% of its traffic is direct.
People aren't finding it on Google anymore. They're just going there. It's become a primary destination on the internet.
But a revolution this big, well, it always leaves behind some casualties. So now our investigation turns to the collateral damage, this whole ecosystem of startups that popped up in ChatGPT's shadow only to get completely crushed by it. They got caught in this brutal cycle we now call the wrapper death spiral.
So what exactly is a wrapper? It's a pretty simple idea, actually. You find a feature that ChatGPT doesn't have, you build a simple little app on top of its API that does that one thing, and then you sell it. For a while there, it felt like a gold rush. But the thing is, these businesses were all built on borrowed land, and the landlord was about to change the locks.
Yeah, the pattern became tragically predictable. First, you'd spot a gap, like chat with your PDF. Step 2, you build the app. Step 3, you start getting users, maybe even raise a few $1,000,000 in funding. And then came step 4. OpenAI would just push an update that included your exact feature, making it free and built in. And just like that, step 5, your startup's value just vanished.
Let's look at a textbook case, Jasper AI. These guys were the poster child of the early AI boom, a billion-dollar unicorn making marketing copy. But as ChatGPT got better and added things like customizable instructions, Jasper's whole reason for existing just got erased. The revenue completely cratered from $120 million down to $35 million in a single year, a classic victim of the death spiral.
But the most dramatic story has to be Windsurf, the AI coding assistant. They were so good, OpenAI actually offered to buy them for $3 billion. But the deal fell through because of some tricky IP stuff with Microsoft, OpenAI's biggest partner. Left out in the cold, Windsurf got carved up and sold for parts to Google and Cognition. And that was it. The entire market for standalone AI coding assistants was basically over.
So how did anybody make it out alive? Well, 2 main strategies popped up. First, you go vertical. Instead of building general tools, companies dove deep into specific, boring industries like law or medical compliance, places where unique data and heavy regulations created a protective wall. The other way was to sell the picks and shovels, right? Building the essential infrastructure, what we call agent ops, the tools for security, monitoring, and management that big companies need to actually use these new AI agents.
And that brings our investigation to today. The rise of ChatGPT has created a totally new landscape, and with it, a whole new set of unsolved mysteries. These are the giant's blind spots, the huge problems that OpenAI itself has created but can't really solve. And for entrepreneurs, these are the biggest opportunities out there right now.
So here's mystery number 1. The next wave of AI agents, they want to live on your computer, watching your screen 24/7 so they can be helpful. Well, that creates a massive privacy nightmare, doesn't it? Who owns all that data? Where's it going? And this has created a desperate need for local-first AI, agents that run entirely on your own device, where your data stays your own.
And what about jobs with really high stakes? We've got AIs now that can give expert-level medical or legal advice. But what happens when it gets something wrong? If an AI doctor misdiagnoses you, who's on the hook? The doctor who used it? The hospital? OpenAI? This liability gap is a huge roadblock, and it's opening the door for a whole new category. Think insured AI, something that actually takes responsibility for its own mistakes.
So here's the key takeaway. The next big wave of innovation isn't going to come from building a slightly better ChatGPT. It's going to come from solving the problems that giants like OpenAI are just not built to handle. They can't promise you perfect privacy. They're not going to accept legal liability. And their whole ecosystem will never be truly neutral. These are the new frontiers.
And that's where our autopsy comes to a close. The last 3 years were all about building these massive, foundational AI giants. But that was just Act 1. Now the whole game is shifting. It's not about creating intelligence anymore. It's about deploying it as autonomous agents that go out and do things for us. The war for that future, well, it has only just begun.